Hey everybody, Eshan Lacoste here from All Wise Transformation with another segment in mental health, self-care, and spiritual practice. And I have another guest with me, Shei, who is gracing me with their time. And we're going to sort of talk about what it's like to sort of be a planner, a photographer, living in the New York capital area in Albany. And before we start, please remember to hit that sort of like button because it really sort of helps me sort of bump up, or the algorithm of YouTube really bump ups the views. And so let's get into it, Shay. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I am going to start off with asking, what do you find fascinating?
About photography?
Just in general, like right now, like in sort of how you're moving through the Albany area, or fashion, or politics, or
Ooh.
like movies, or what are you finding fascinating right now for you?
Um, I don't know. I guess just life, if you will.
Okay, okay,
We're fairly new we're like 10 days into the new year. I'm feeling good, feeling optimistic about it, despite everything that's going on, because it's a lot going on and such. But, just feeling optimistic about, everything.
nice. So for folks who don't know, Shay's a photographer in the Albany area, as well as an organizer for In Our Own Voices, I believe.
That's
And
one of
oh,
many.
one.
I am a freelancer. No one owns me.
Set it, hear it, and work it. I love it. So let's start with this one, like, how did you get to the Albany area?
Oh, so okay. Well, that goes into I won't dive too much into it, but it goes into a little bit of my past. So, as I said to someone else, I was raised in the group homes growing up as a youth, from the age of 6 to about 15. I'm originally from Brooklyn. So the last place I was, placed in was here in Albany. And after that, at that point, my family was already here. And so I was placed into the care of my mom again, and that's how I got here. This is in 2007. But I was always familiar with Albany. We were always kind of here and everything. I was here back when the MVP arena was called the Pepsi Arena, or I think I was still here when it was like Knickerbocker, but that was like I was young, and then it became the Pepsi, then Times Union, and then MVP or whatever the heck you want to call it. I was here when we had several different boys and girls clubs in each of the neighborhoods. When McDonald's was right here, if you're familiar with Albany on South Pearl. The McDonald's right there. I was here when we had a Rite Aid's right there. Just a bunch of different stuff. So I've been here for a little bit. But
All
even
right,
before I was here, I was familiar.
nice. So what type of events do you usually organize, or what type of events do you usually find yourself sort of yeah, organizing, or events that you're workshops or conferences that you're doing, or events?
It depends. So for me, I like to have fun. Like when I do events, I want it to be fun. I focus on young adults. And the reason I'm a very strategic with that, because we have a lot of stuff that's focused on the youth, which I think is great and amazing. However, one thing I've noticed is that we tend to forget about the 18 plus. Because basically, once you hit 18, you're kind of like, okay, well, figure it out on your own. And 18-year-olds, even 30-year-olds, still need support and spaces. And so being that that's my demographic that I work with as a photographer, activist, the whole shebang, I decided to create events for 18 plus folks. And a lot of stuff that I do is also focused on build community coming together. And when I mean community, it means Black LGBTQ folks, or BIPOC LGBTQ folks, and BIPOC non-LGBTQ folks to come together and a safe space, but that's also kind of controlled where nothing goes crazy. Sober, because we have a lot of folks. both LGBTQ and not, that are in recovery and whatnot, and especially what's going on in the world where so many people are uh, um, they're suffering from whatever, and they do, substances and all that stuff. I try to make sure we minimize that, and so I just keep everything sober and such. And I've been doing that for I think now 5 years now.
Okay, okay. So like how do folks find you or how do you sort of find events to sort of put on?
Um, I have no idea. I just have it's something I just decide. I'm like, hey, I want to do this event where actually no, scratch that. So, being that we have like pride stuff here and everything, I look at all that stuff, what has been done, what hasn't been done, what is stuff that I like to do that I know everybody else does. Also, talking with community and whatnot. And in the beginning, when I first started, it was people were like, we want to do things outside of the gay bars, more stuff sober, more stuff where we can just hang out and maybe play some games or whatever and such. And so that's what I started doing at first. Now, this is back in like 2015, 2016 at the time. I was just mostly doing because I was bored. I was like, let's go ahead and do that at the Pride Center and whatnot. And so I was hosting them there and stuff like that. That kind of like died down because I wasn't serious about it. Then once COVID came, my thing had shifted because during COVID, a lot of entrepreneurs, like a lot of Black entrepreneurs came about here in Albany. A lot of people got their LLCs, their DBAs, myself included. I wound up getting my LLC for my photography business, but we didn't have any access to services, resources, and whatnot. And so, being that I had connections with all these things, I was able to like host like a networking event every summer or every few months or whatever at the time to come together, bring the resources. Now I moved it to like every summer because that's a lot to do
Yeah. And,
financially, time, and all that.
and I like the idea about doing sober events because I sort of feel like in queer spaces usually there's lots of like substances and alcohol and I feel like substances are great and they're they have their place but I sometimes feel like for folks who struggle with anxiety or folks who struggle with shyness, right? It sort of masks their ability to sort of interact with other people. And I'm curious about like what got you started just to do sober events.
Because although I might drink, I might smoke some weed sometimes, I've always enjoyed sober events. I felt like kind of like what you were saying. And, substances kind of is always a part of our culture, the queer culture. It's always been since back in the day. And I feel like we don't have too many spaces where you can not have the substances in, like we have our gay bars where you see it all the time. And like, okay, that's great. But what about those days when like we want to just have fun without all the alcohol or the whatever people choose to do and whatnot? And then also again, we miss out on the people who are still underage, that are still young adults and whatnot. So having those spaces and whatnot, and then also, like I said, once COVID came, a lot of people were really struggling. Then they started using substances and heavy and such like that. And so I'm like, why can't we create more spaces where take that out of the equation and allow people to be there. And also, it's a great way for people to actually really meet community and be present
Yeah, yeah.
and
So,
whatnot. So, though,
so I'm curious about like what's the most memorable event that you put on that you're like, oh, this really worked. This was hot. Everyone was enjoying themselves. Even you were enjoying yourself. Like, is there a particular event that you remember that was just like it was just on fire?
um, yes, it was actually the first one I did after I got my LLC. And it was rebranded and everything. Because like I said, it was originally about just the queer community. But then once COVID came, I restructured everything and I focused more on the entrepreneurs, whether you were LGBTQ or not. But it was BIPOC. And so what I did was I had my studio at the time. And in the studio, we had this big space that could fit about 200 people. I also had recently won a lawsuit at the time. And so, like, I spent a good amount of money on that event. I had a DJ, I had catered food, I had everything. And we had that shit sold out. It was packed in there. And we all had a lovely time. And it was something that was so needed. I remember everybody came dressed to the nines. Everybody was having a fun time. It was packed, it was fun, and I loved it.
Oh, that sounds fun. I've seen like small little clippets of videos of you like taking pictures at particular events. And I forget what and again for folks who don't know, Shade does put on events on that I've never attended, but I've sort of like peeped on online of some of his events. And I remember you were like taking I think you were taking pictures at this particular event and people were like they wanted you to do some voguing. They like you had your photography with
Oh my
you.
God, are you talking about just recently?
Yeah, yeah, it was.
So I yes, that was at oh my God, that was at the Halloween ball.
Yes, Halloween. Yes, yeah,
I so
yeah.
here's the funny thing about that. So I know a lot of people in ballroom, both the Kiki scene and mainstream. And at that particular ball, we had the House of Ninja, the iconic House of Ninja from like Paris is Burning, and the House of LaBeija here,
Right.
and
Ooh.
such. And the commentator, listen, I'm not a ballroom person. I don't walk the balls. I just work them when they contract me and stuff like that. But
Because I think you had your camera with you too while you
I
were
did. And so I'm
walking.
explaining. So what happened was I was taking photos and everything, and all I heard was this person has been taking photos and videos of the balls and whatnot. And I looked at him with a stink. I said, bitch, I know, do not. Because they were doing the LSS, which is Legend Statement Stars or whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, yeah,
But, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and so like that. And he said that and started calling my name. And I was like, oh my God, please no. No. But he wouldn't stop unless I did. And I was like, fine, I'll fucking walk, but no.
And it was really brief. Like you sort of like went up, you did a little
I
shot
went, what
sachet.
you saw was quite brief. I was like, okay, bye.
So for folks who don't know, which I would be surprised in the 21st century in the year 2025, what is ballroom or ballroom culture? Well, like what is ballroom events? What is that?
I would be the wrong person to ask. So
Okay,
again,
okay,
I am not
okay.
ballroom. I guess you could say I'm ballroom adjacent,
Adjacent?
if
What?
you will. Because again, I know a lot of people from ballroom and whatnot, but I don't walk the balls.
Yeah.
I work them like as a photographer when when the or agencies like In Our Own Voices contracts me
Hmm.
because In Our
Hmm.
Own Voices hosts the balls here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, it's a Kiki scene, not the mainstream one and everything. But I work them when they contract me. But other than that, I am not a ballroom girl.
It's all good. How do you build and maintain relationships as you're sort of developing your sort of business? Like how do you sort of maintain some of those relationships for your business?
I have no idea. I guess me just being authentically me and continuing doing what I do. Some things I do, not everybody can get away with. From the beginning, everybody has, most people who work with me know I'm vocal about my beliefs, what I don't like and what I like and what I don't like,
Hmm.
and such like that. What I believe in as far as community, what should be being done, etc. Most people who I've worked with, they understand that. They also know that I bring professionalism and what my expectations are when I work with you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
such.
yeah,
So for some people, that some people can get away with that,
yeah.
others cannot. For me, I'm very strict about that, but I also own all my stuff. I own the name of my business. I own everything. I'm also I'm the premier Black LGBTQ photographer here in Albany and such.
Ooh,
And so,
yeah,
certain things I can get away with and everything, but
yeah.
the answer to that is simply me being authentically me.
Which which I think which I think is beautiful because I think a lot of people struggle to be their authentic selves. And so I'm curious, like, what advice would you have for folks to be authentic and like what is that if you had to be like a mentor or a support supporter. I saw that face. If you had to be a
Yeah.
mentor, like how would you mentor somebody in being authentic?
And I just tell people just to simply be themselves. That's usually what I say. Be yourself. You don't have to be anything that you are not comfortable with, and such. And this whole me being authentic was not an easy thing. It was life experience and everything. And, me, going through some things for me to be comfortable with. Because
Hmm.
I remember when I was a young baby, just about a decade ago, because I came out when I was 20, and that was 2014 and everything.
Uh,
I remember I struggled with finding out who I am. And so, throughout time, as I was in the community, I allowed myself to change and evolve and whatnot, which a lot of us tend to not allow ourselves to do.
yeah, yeah,
And such, I went through shit and everything, and that shaped who I am and my beliefs and all that stuff. And I'm still growing.
yeah.
I'm only 30, about to be 31 years old now. And so,
Looking
I'm
good.
thank you. I'm still, so, I'm still growing and everything and still learning, and still, maturing.
So, as a person who knows nothing about photography, and I think you're mentioning ACL, or is that, am I saying that right? Or you said you got your
My LLC,
LIC, yeah, 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 yeah.
LLC.
What for folks who don't know what that is, what is that?
Basically, it is, I, how do I explain this? And it's limited liability company or something like that. Don't get me wrong of the actual like names of it, but basically, with this, it allows you to like literally run your business like a legitimate business.
Yeah.
You can, it brings you a lot of protection when it comes to intellectual property, copyright stuff. Also, if you get sued, they can sue the LLC. They cannot sue you. So that's
Okay.
one of the protection things, and it opens you up to funding and stuff like that. Should I wish I had the thing here where I could.
No, 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 no. And I'm so like, what kind of photography do you take? Is it like, I know it's
I'm a creative
mostly
photographer,
hello?
so that is my specialty. I love, creative photography, like stuff that you see in like Vogue magazine, stuff like that. Even though it's also editorial, but when I can come up with concepts for folks
Hmm.
and I can bring it to life, most of even also as a model, me, what you guys see here
Yay!
and
Love
whatnot,
it.
show that. Not
Yeah.
only was I a model, I was the creative director for this.
Yes.
And so I came up with the concept, and the concept for this was actually came from a shoot I had did. So I did a shoot for body positivity, for the LGBTQ community and body dysmorphia, and in that I kind of was inspired by Out magazine and back in the day in the 80s and 90s when they had the AIDS epidemic, awareness photos and everything, and they had like the paintings, like the words painted on folks.
Yeah.
I took inspiration from that, and we did that. And In Our Own Voices liked it so much, they asked me to recreate it for sexual health, and so we did that.
I love it. I love it. And you had a calendar too that you worked on, right?
That was
Like,
the first calendar for their Men Who Have Sex with Men, um, program.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
normally it's for the Women Who Have Sex with Women program that they have. They normally do a calendar every year.
yeah. Is there certain things that you just like you're it's a hard no for you to not
As far
engage
as
in,
photography,
yeah, to not sort of take pictures
I don't do nudity, not unless it really is something that I truly believe in. The reason why I say that is because my clientele is, again, BIPOC, but also BIPOC LGBTQ. And though I am not a prude, I'm very sex positive. I would like to see us more than us, always naked and everything.
yeah,
I
yeah,
see it always in media, especially when it comes to, gay queer people. We're
yeah,
always in the queer men. It's always nudity, nudity, nudity.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, that's great. But
yeah.
can we show more of who we are?
And the thing I sort of like about your style is that, not that I know a lot of photographers, but the photographers that I have sort of like interacted with, they tend not to take pictures of themselves. I feel like you are just like, yeah, I'll take a picture of myself. Yeah, I'll put myself in front of the camera. And I'm curious, like, is that intentional, or is that like somebody prodding you to be in front of the camera, or like,
Here's the thing. I started off before I was ever a photographer or a filmmaker, which because I'm also that too. I was an actor and model.
Okay, okay.
So prior to all that, I was always working in front of the camera. And then I transitioned to working behind the camera, doing stuff and everything, but while still working that. So I was always that. So it's for me, I'm comfortable in front of the camera
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and such. Now, if you say like if you look at my social media, I don't have too many selfies of myself.
No, the pictures that I've seen of you are very sort of like classy, very professional, and like again, not saying that people on social media don't they can't do that, but like you have a specifically intention about like when I'm taking this picture, I'm taking it in a particular style, and I'm taking it with a particular equipment, and like for
Mhm.
me, knowing you behind the camera, I know that you're very intentional about
Mhm.
how you're taking pictures.
Because I have a brand outside of my photography. I have a whole brand and how I care about that. And there's just certain things I don't do, especially as a model. There's certain things I'm not comfortable with doing and that I'm not going to do. Nudity is one, even for me as a model, unless it's unless it's for something for, let's say for like breast cancer or where doing it for, body dysmorphia and body positivity. Okay, then I will. So, or unless I choose to, which I've done a shoot before, that obviously can't really be shown on social media and stuff like that. There is one picture from that was on social media because they allowed it. But unless I choose to, or it really is something I believe in, I don't go, do stuff like that. If other people do,
Yeah,
I love that for you. Kudos to you. I will never judge you. It's just for me, that's not something I want to put out.
yeah,
I want to show that I am more than just, my body being nude and stuff like that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
again, if people
Mhm.
choose to do that. I love that for
That's
them.
that's that's the so I'm curious about like so let's say like for me or somebody who sort of contracts you and they're like I want you to take pictures just for me or like like either personal pictures or like headshots like and if they're really nervous like how do you coach them to get comfortable or to appear more comfortable in front of the camera? Do you have any particular techniques or do you have any particular exercises that you have them do to sort of get comfortable? Because I would imagine, well, at least for me, like the anxiety about like like I'm not model worthy or I don't look like a model or I don't have like the model build or like I'm just curious, how do you get people to get comfortable in front of the camera?
I just talk to them. Just like I just talk to them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm very much myself. Like and stuff like that. Sometimes people love a butch queen, especially when it comes to photography. They love a butch queen. So I make them feel comfortable, but I also, work with them on their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah,
As someone who works with me, I can help you pose. If you don't know how to pose, I can help you on like certain things. We'll try certain things, see how that's comfortable for you and whatnot. I hype you up, like, yes, go ahead, work, stuff like that. So, I just talk to people as like a person.
yeah,
And I assure them that modeling nowadays is not like it was back in the day where you had to look a certain way. There's so many different forms of modeling. You can be plus size. You don't have to be, you can be, you know, a little chunkier, thicker, or whatnot. And that's fine nowadays and it's acceptable.
yeah,
Back in the day, you had to be like skinny or whatnot. Some of that still exists. Like I know, like when you do runway modeling, you have to fit a certain, you know, look
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and such. So yeah, just talk to folks.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you feel like when you're taking a picture like do you feel like when you take a picture that you know immediately like this is the shot or does it take a while or do you have to be like okay let's do this a couple of more times in this different perspective or this different angle like or you just know.
I can look at a picture automatically. I'm like, yep. Or I'm like, nope. Let's try again. Again, I'm somebody. I know what I want and I know what I look for.
Mhm.
And so when I see it, I see it. If not, we'll try it again.
Yeah. So how did you get into photography?
Well, that kind of goes hand in hand with how I get into filmmaking and all that stuff. I love entertainment and everything.
Okay.
And so I've always been in it as an actor and whatnot. So kind of naturally, it just kind of came.
Yeah.
I was already working with the camera at that time. So it just kind of came naturally. But I did not want to work with people originally.
Really?
No.
What?
I was doing a lot of like landscape photography because I
Okay.
love landscape. I love like the old like brownstones and whatnot and seeing imagery of like, scenery and stuff like that. I was not trying to work with people because despite what might people might know me for or like when they see me out like being a photographer, being an entrepreneur, being an actor, or whatever the hell you want to call it,
Yeah.
um, I am not a people person.
What?
I'm not. And as I've gotten older, I really am not a people person.
Wait, is
I
it?
know how to fake it. I not well, not fake it. I know how to put on the the act, if you will,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
when I
It,
have to be social.
it
But
is it because like you don't trust people? Is it because you
I've never been a people person. I just again, so like even when we first initially met, I know how to put it on. I know how to turn on the social butterfly when I have
yeah,
to. Like
yeah,
when I'm
yeah,
at
yeah.
work, when I have to be at events where I have to talk or whatever the hell, yeah, I know how to turn it on. But who I really am, I am not a people person.
As an event planner, I would imagine that that's sort of contradictory to the whole profession that you started in your business, right? Like your business is about people, and
Uh-huh.
it's just interesting that you're saying that you're
Uh-huh. But going back to that question, which I completely forgot just now. It was about yeah. So I did not want to work with people, but I realized that at the point, again, this is during COVID, like when the COVID lockdown, a lot of people requested me to do photos for them. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll bite the bullet and I'll just fucking do it. But I really did not want to work with people.
yeah, okay.
And so I just did it. And after practicing and, really doing it, I got, better and better and better.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious about like what has been the biggest challenge sort of being an entrepreneur for you, either in the Albany area or either in eventing, planning events or taking photography. I'm just, like what has been the
Um,
biggest challenge?
okay, so there's a few parts to that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned Albany. I currently live in Albany, and the issue I tend to run in with that is that there is no support for small businesses here or even entrepreneurs. More specifically, there's not much support for Black entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And that's just not just here in Albany, it's kind of all around. We
Yeah.
as Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, we have to fight twice as hard because
Yeah.
of the statistics and da 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 da. But here in Albany, there's just a lack of support for Black businesses. Then, because I am a photographer and I'm in like digital media, the industry, that part and stuff like that, Albany definitely does not have a market for what I do.
Hmm.
What I would have to do for me to really be to my business to really thrive, I would have to move to a bigger metropolitan city like New York City,
Yeah.
Atlanta,
Yeah.
LA, even Chicago,
Yeah.
and stuff where those places have the market for it, even though there'll be more competition, which I'm never afraid of.
Yeah.
Um, you would have to be in places like that, especially for the stuff I would like to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
stuff like that.
like, have you thought about moving, or do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I never liked Albany. I would love to go back to New York City. It's just
Okay.
not that easy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, New York City is expensive, so
So was Albany.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Everything is expensive, and I don't get why, because none of this shit is really up to date. All this stuff is a hot mess. Our city is a hot mess. Take your pick.
What would you say is your favorite aspect of your job?
I love that I get to create art and I get to really make people feel, you know, and show different, and also, show different, aspects of community members that people don't get to see
Mhm.
and whatnot, and just community as a whole,
Yeah,
showing different aspects of community. Like you don't have to be, look a certain way. You can be someone who is, trans and really, show that human side of us and show
yeah,
the various beauty of who we are as Black individuals, as Black LGBTQ individuals, and all that stuff.
yeah,
I love doing stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Is that something that you sort of developed over time, or is that something that you've always sort of like wanted to engage in?
Well, as far as like working with the queer
Yeah,
community,
yeah, Black queer community, like, is
that
it
is actually what Man in Productions was always. Even before I got the LLC. When I started doing filmmaking and everything, I was working with the community. I was one of the first, and I think I'm still kind of, the only, but again, I'm the premier, BIPOC LGBTQ photographer here and filmmaker, whatever the hell.
snap,
But
snap, snap?
yes, but I was always working within the community.
Yeah,
I felt, and this is also before Pose and everything, when I have my show. So I have a whole documentary series that has been here for years. Prior to COVID, when I rebranded and everything, um, my show was focused on the queer community. Again, before we had Pose, Fort Legendary, and everything, and we talked and we normalized our stories that you
yeah.
don't hear in media and everything. But what happened with that was within 4 episodes, I realized I did all I could do with Albany's community because it's not big and stuff like that. But I also at the time was scared to have certain conversations that I have now in my show. And so again, once COVID came, there was a lot more going on, with the rise of the new like activists in the Black Lives Matter movement, the George Floyd stuff, um, you name it. It was a lot going on, and so deleted all those episodes from everywhere, so you can't find all episodes, and I rebranded my show Queer Talk, and we started having more honest and real open conversations, such as like what it's like living with HIV and the myths behind, how that is, and stuff like that. And I got to interview so many different people, people who had contracted the virus during the AIDS epidemic, some people who were born with it, and so on and so forth. And we got to really go down to the really honest and open questions and answers that we should be having. We also talked about what it's like being in the industry and being openly LGBTQ and stuff like that. We talked about intergenerational relationships, where I got to interview the fiance of the late, great, iconic Willie Ninja, who's also his fiance is a friend of mine. I didn't even know that they were together and stuff like that. But we connected and we talked about that. And we also talked about, what it's like being queer and in the military. And also religion. And there was all these topics that, we don't really talk about often or we don't hear in media that we tackled. And all that, was great. And my show won 2 awards.
Ooh.
Mhm. So it's an award-winning show. We're coming back this year for season 4.
So what inspired this project of yours?
It was again having, showing a different side of us that media doesn't show,
Fair.
and also telling our stories for us by us,
Yeah.
and humanizing shit. Like even with, we did episodes on the trans community,
Yeah.
because we had lost a woman of trans experience here, someone who I knew and everything. She was murdered, unfortunately, in 2022 and such. And I interviewed her mother, and she was doing such great things, only for her life to casually. And but like we talk about various different things, and I don't shy away from the really
Art
taboo
subjects. Yeah.
conversations. We even talked about sex positivity and all this stuff, even sex education for the queer community and such. We did an episode on that, but it was stuff that I felt needed to be talked about that we don't talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So what inspires you to either create or to do an event? Like what inspires you?
I'm a Pisces. I can never not create. It is
So,
in my DNA. Even when
so,
I
so
don't want to do something, something just pops up. I'm like, ooh, I gotta do it.
so for folks who are not familiar with like astrology, like what does it mean to be a Pisces?
Pisces?
Yeah. Is that what you said, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Pisces. So
Yeah.
Pisces, we're creators, we're dreamers, we are inventors, and that is our thing. That's why a lot of Pisces are usually like artists and stuff like that. You know, like Rihanna. Oh my God, there's a few people. But yeah, no, we're very creative and we're very, invention and very intuitive and all that other good shit. We are also sometimes very ditzy and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah.
So what current projects are you working on right now?
So apart from the new campaign for In Our Own Voices, um, I'm planning my summer event. So that's going to be a very beautiful event. I'm not going to release too many details right now, but it's going to be basically a queer soiree. I figured because now we have a bigger space to do it. And so I was like, okay, I want to have a dance. When was the last time we had like a prom type thing for the adults?
I never went to prom. Prom wasn't like even on my radar
Oh
as
my God, I went to prom. Absolutely.
you did. Did
Yes, I skipped grades. I was supposed to be in junior high, but they didn't have any room for me. And so they put me in high school. And I was able to go to all the dances. I just went for the food. I wasn't out at the time, and all the dudes in that school was ugly and dusty. And so today I did not. Mm-mm. But I went for the food. They used to have the good food. They used to have them damn cupcakes from whatever that company they used to go to. They used to have the chocolate fondue stuff and the marshmallows. So I used to go for that and everything, and I enjoyed myself every chance I got.
So you mentioned that you were in the closet when you were growing up. For as a person who seems very confident, who seems very goal orientated, who seems very sort of like just clear about what they want to do, was that something when you were younger there, or was this something that just developed for you?
What,
Because
that I was always knew what I wanted to do?
yeah, yeah,
Oh no, I always knew I was gonna be an actor, I was gonna be in the entertainment industry. I knew all that stuff. Um, but that didn't have really anything to do with the closet thing.
okay,
And even then, like I never felt like I was in the closet. I just didn't feel like it was something that was meant to be known at the time.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I knew I liked men since I was 4
yeah. Oh
and
wow.
everything. Yes, I knew. Even my the way I am now, my mannerism, it was always that way. It's just that now I'm more comfortable, with who I am.
Yeah.
But also, I was raised Muslim, and so that is a no-no in the culture. Now, granted, my mother never shamed me and whatnot. She was, and also, excuse my language, but she was a whole fag hag. She loved the gays and the girls and all that. But that was something that's not accepted in my family's culture and everything. But
Yeah.
it was I never thought anything about it, but that my mannerism was not normal or whatever the hell,
Yeah.
such like that. I thought I was just simply being me, and this is who I was naturally.
Yeah.
Such it wasn't until I moved out on my own prior to me coming out August 20th of 2014. Um, I moved out on my own, in my first ever apartment in August 8th of 2014. And I had time to really sit with myself and really ask myself some really important questions and all that stuff. And after like a couple of weeks or whatnot, I was honest with myself and I was like, I like men's very much. And it's time for me to go ahead and live my truth and allow myself that because I had lived 19 years prior, a lie and, living for other people. And
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do that no more. And so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I allowed myself to be free.
Yeah.
And so, I did that. And
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, it's really difficult to find your voice, and as you sort of mentioning earlier, to be authentic. Like I think it's a journey that people have to sort of go on, either meeting people in their life or
Hmm.
certain events happening or situations that they find themselves in. Um, but it's a journey to find that confidence. It's a journey to find that voice to say, like, I'm out here and this is me, this is who I am. Either you take it or you don't. You don't have to stay here or whatever. Just I'm just going to do me. And that takes a level of confidence, that takes a level of security, that takes a level of insight, right? And I
Hmm.
think, coming out as queer is one of, I'm not saying that there isn't, but it's one of the most challenging things I think any individual can do.
Especially when you also add into the fact of race, us being black, and which is already difficult here in America. Now you have to add into the fact we are also LGBTQ. So we have a few things against us. We have the issue of racism, colorism, and all that stuff, just being black. We also have that, in the queer community, but now we have to worry about our sexuality, our gender identity, our gender expression, all this stuff where it becomes a lot at times and very taxing.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel safe? Because I know in order just to be out, like you take a level of risk of being either harassed or bullied. Like, do you feel safe? Like, just
Hell yeah. I'm gonna be me regardless. Again, I spent the first 19 years of my life not living for me. And so once I was out the closet, I was not going back.
yeah, yeah,
Fuck. The fuck, but um like sometimes I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it is difficult and shit, being out and being within this community. And I don't even like saying community because to me, I don't always feel like we are a community. Being in the scene openly and whatnot becomes a lot
yeah, yeah,
at times
yeah.
because of, the division and everything. And, so it becomes a lot. And oftentimes you feel isolated and,
What do you, in your opinion, like, what do you think is the division in the queer community?
oh, it's a whole lot. It varies, depending on who you talk to. Because,
Right.
you know, when we're talking about that also includes, trans folks and whatnot. It varies depending on where you fall in that. I can only speak for me
Right.
in my experience. I think, a lot of us, a lot of people, a lot of people need to go to counseling, need to go get some help and really address their issues, their childhood trauma, their internal issues and whatnot. And then maybe try coming back within this community because everybody's hurt and everything. And people take that hurt out on others and whatnot,
Yeah.
got nothing to do with it
Yeah.
and stuff like that. People also need to go ahead and address their own internalized homophobia, their internalized transphobia, their own racism and whatnot. It's just a lot that people have to really do the work on within themselves.
Nice. Nice.
And so
So we're
that's what
getting,
I feel the real problem is that people need to go seek some counseling and really address the demons they got up in themselves.
yeah, yeah. So as we're getting ready to end, I usually ask folks sort of like tangible things that you could give advice about. If someone wanted to be a photographer or wanted to be an entrepreneur, like what advice would you give them in getting started?
So with photography, I always tell people just go out and do it. Get yourself a camera
Yep.
and just shoot. You no amount of reading or watching YouTube videos is really going to help you with your craft per se. It'll help you with learning how to work the camera and maybe the business aspect of it. But if you really want to be a photographer and whatnot, it's art. You have to go experiment. try different things. Try something. Don't be afraid to, be different with it and everything.
Yeah.
Find your own identity in it and such, and be okay with, not everybody getting your type of, art and stuff like that. When it comes to business aspect, I always encourage people to please do your research. Do your research on, especially if you're getting into this, learn about contracts, learn about, you know, all that stuff, especially, but heavy on the contracts and paperwork, because a lot of the folks, especially within the queer community, like the drag performers and all that stuff, they're always complaining about, oh, we didn't get paid and whatnot. I'm like, well, did you have a contract? Did you have all this stuff? Oh, no, you should be. At the end of the day, people, I don't care what, you always got to advocate for something, always got to be about your business and be about you. I don't give a fuck if you're dealing with family, friends, or whatnot. It's business.
Yeah.
And people can and will screw you over, especially if you ain't on knowing your shit. You got to protect your shit, protect your money, and so protect your artwork, protect your intellectual property and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So be on top of your business, educate yourself about the business.
Nice. So if folks wanted to find you, how could they find you if they wanted you to do like any photos for them or
You can find me on all social media under Mannon Productions LLC. Just like how my name is spelled there, my last name right there,
yeah.
you can find it like that, Mannon Productions LLC.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and
Of
this
course.
evening and I know there was some like coordinations and trying to get us together to finally like do
Yes,
this
child,
meeting.
listen, the work that I have done, that I gotta be doing this week, has been driving me nuts. But nevertheless, I am here. And
And you're doing the work, right? I
yes,
think that's the most important thing is that you're doing the work, which thank you for doing that because we need more queer people of color, like you said, to be representing and doing the work and doing the work for us. So thank you.
of course, of course.
Mhm.
Until next
Well,
time.
on that note, I'm going to leave information if you want to find out more about Shei and get in contact and sort of see what they're doing, the new event, because it sounds like a nice little event is coming up pretty soon.
It is July 12th.
So keep an eye out for that, and don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next segment. See you, folks.